Hello and welcome to episode 74, I think it is, of our Blackburn Rovers Football Manager 2017 save. As you can tell, I've got my lucky glasses on. Now, they're not really lucky glasses, but if you guys remember a few seasons ago, when we reached our first cup final, which I think was in the FL Cup final, I wore these glasses, calling them our magical, lucky Ranieri glasses. And it was our first cup, our first proper piece of silverware. Depends whether you count finishing second place in the championship as silverware or not, that we achieved on this save. And I don't think you guys need me to tell you that it's been a bit of a demoralising season. We started off incredibly strong, lost in the FL Cup final, bottled a 10-point lead at the top of the Premier League. We won the UEFA Super Cup, I'll give us that, but let's try and at least finish this season on a high. Let's at least win another FA Cup. We've got Wolves at Wembley until the season ends, and then the next episode will, of course, as always, be our good old season review episode where we take a look at what's happened in other leagues. Some of you guys may have noticed that I'm a little bit more upbeat than I was in the last episode. It's actually been a week since this 1-1 draw and some of these other pathetic games, and I've had a bit of time to get over it. A bit sad, I know, but you do sometimes forget that Football Manager is just a game. I think that's why we all love it. But I guess we've got to be positive. Up until this point, we've done nothing but constantly improve ourselves. If we can improve ourselves next season, on paper, we should be Premier League champions next season. And without a shadow of a doubt, that is going to be our main aim for next season. It's going to be an incredibly tough and long season once again. I just knocked over a bottle of water. But, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to make up for this season, next season, and finish the series on a high. There's a big chance that regardless of what happens next season, it will be the last season for this particular series on YouTube, because obviously the main purpose behind this series was to kind of tie in with some of my tactical videos and just try to show how I would take a championship club that's now a League One club, not only get them out of the championship with little to no money, but how I would go about building them up in the Premier League to basically become one of the best footballing sides in the country. And hopefully come the end of next season, come the end of the series, not only will have you guys enjoyed it a lot hopefully, but you'll have also learned a lot as well. And as always, I always learn a lot from doing saves like this as well. It seems like every year, it doesn't matter how long you've been playing Football Manager, you learn and you learn and you learn. And the reason why I know I'm learning is because I look back at some of the decisions, I look back at some of the episodes and decisions I made within some of the episodes in some of these games. And to be honest, when you've got the cameras on you and you've got key highlights, because I've never really normally played on key highlights, it does make for tweaking and my kind of style of play that I'm sure you'll all be familiar with quite easier, if that makes any sense. But that to one side, let's just jump straight into this FA Cup final. It's been a productive season to say the least, and let's at least come out of it with some silverware. Okie dokie, so to Wembley yet again we have come. The last time we were at Wembley early on in the season, we lost in the FA Cup final to Arsenal. So, it's the FA Cup final. We've made a lot of cup finals this season. We won the Euro Super Cup final. Let's hope we can also win an FA Cup final. And in a way, you know, okay, we kind of threw away the Premier League, but this would also be our first league where I think we've won more than one piece of silverware, you know, so it's all about that progression. So, our starting lineup. We have a lot of players out injured, Kerem Demirbay being one of them. I don't even know whether or not I'm going to sell him in the summer. He's a fantastic player. He's a player I love. But it seems like he spends more time on the injury table than he does actually playing for us. And I do think injuries also, as well as the fact that the Venky's gave us no money in January, are kind of like to blame for what happened to us in the second half of the season in terms of our downfall. So, back four is as expected. Danny Bath comes in instead of Dumic, who I believe is injured. Romeu comes in instead of Douglas. Nigel comes in instead of Marco Rog. I think Marco Rog's pace could be very useful later on in the game, hence why I've dropped into the bench. And I think we need to give Nigel some game time. He's had quite a lot of it this season, and he's always played well, to be fair. So, cup final, come on, Nigel, show us what you can do. Piaka, Gray, and Yang up front, simply because, well, Rog could have been in the mix, but for me, Yang and Piaka and Gray are the better strikers at the moment. And, yeah, Nano's out injured, so that sums that up. In terms of Wolves, well, I've got an interesting team. Shane Duffy's hopefully someone we can get the better of for many different reasons that Blackburn fans will know. They've got Janssen up front, who, as we know, isn't exactly the fastest of strikers. For that reason, we've actually raised our defensive line. We've gone with fullbacks rather than IFBs, and other than that, it's our usual approach to the world. Now, Wolves, historically, not last season, maybe the season before that, I can't quite remember, but they have kind of looked good from the counter-attack, and Paul Lambert is their manager, and that's how they're set up to play. So we are going to have to be solid in the wide areas. Nyang and Piaka man-marking the wingers as needs be, but I think we're going to be fine. As always, we'll build our way into the game. Key highlights, we've got to see more or less where Wolves start causing us problems, assuming they do start causing us problems, and then we'll tweak accordingly. So we kick off, and a cheeky back heel from Nigel, and Piaka loses the ball 10 seconds in. That's a great start. One thing I've actually forgotten to do is demand more. But possession-wise, we're doing all right. We got 70% of it. Romeu, playing in front of the back four, is going to find Nigel, who loves the sideways pass. Alenya, one of our more creative players, who actually does know how to pass forwards. Nyang should have probably cut that across to Piaka on the other side, but it's a good save from Sells. And let's see what we can do from this corner kick. Headed to the header of Bath, and yeah, I do think one of the areas we're going to definitely strengthen in the summer has to be centre-back. We've kind of always said that our defence has never been good enough, and we even said last summer that we were going to strengthen our centre-backs, and we didn't actually end up signing a centre-back. We signed a right-back who happens to be half-decent at centre-back, but, you know, we've not really signed a world-class centre-back. It's like, oh. Okay, Yang should have finished that, but 15 minutes in, Wolves haven't really caused us too many problems. I think, if anything, we might go a little bit more positive for the last 10 minutes or so of this half. But yeah, we've been saying for a while that, you know, we want to strengthen defensively, but we couldn't really bring in the right kind of player in the summer. And looking back at things at Christmas, we barely conceded any goals, so it kind of seemed like, oh, for God's sake, that's offside, fortunately for us. And looking back at things in the summer, it kind of seemed like an inspired decision because we weren't leaking any goals, as you guys will remember. But, oh, for God's sake, now Alenya's injured. But in comparison, in contrast, in the second half of the season, we conceded far too many sloppy goals. I mean, Callas's header into our own goal kind of says it all, and some of them messing around with passing out the back between Rajkovic. Rajkovic wasn't good enough in the second half of the season either. We are going to have to see changes in the summer. I don't necessarily think that them changes will come up front in terms of the wide areas, but in terms of a world-class striker down the middle, even though Andre Gray and Nano have obviously scored quite a few goals for us this season, I feel like there's always room to improve. So it'll be interesting to see what the market's like in the summer. But like I said, there's a chance that we might see one of either Bath or Dumic leave the club, and we might try and bring in another world-class centre-back in. Someone who's really, you know, world-class, not just good enough. But yeah, the performance was disappointing, and it pretty much sums us up for the second half of the season where we've played well, we've had clear-cut chances. And, you know, I said there a second ago, what's just happened now? We've lost the world. I said a second ago that these guys are pretty good, but if you actually think about it, in terms of finishing, Nyang has 12 finishing and 12 composure, which isn't really great, and Piaka as well. So if we really are going to start competing with Man United's Morata up front, who scores 30 plus goals a season on his own, we are going to need that killer edge. And if we were looking at signing Lukaku last summer, and we could have signed him, I think, if we wanted to, and I decided against it. And it just makes me wonder, if we'd signed Lukaku, would that extra bit of oomph, that extra bit of class up front have maybe grabbed us an extra goal or two to turn some of them draws into wins or some of them losses into draws that would have easily given us the extra 2 points we needed not to throw away the Premier League. But that to one side. Alenya is obviously injured, so remember when I said Rog's time to shine could be very soon? I think it's basically going to be now. So we're going to switch back to a standard mentality as we come out into this second half. We played much better with that standard mentality in the first half, and let's kick things off again. In terms of what we would potentially look to want to change, I mean, Wolves are playing this very, very deep 4-2-3-1, and I think it's safe to say that our three up front is a good match to try and cause them defensive midfielders problems. But one area where I think we could potentially look to exploit if we hit like the 65th minute and we've still not really created much is maybe to start getting our fullbacks involved that little bit more, try and double up on these guys here. I'm not really too worried about these two up front. Janssen, he's mainly there for the direct balls. This Incham guy has a bit of pace on him, but again, not too worried about him. It's just a case of how we're going to break these down, because they're very physical, they're very, very large, but they're not exactly the fastest. So another intelligent idea could be as well to try and maybe change to a diamond in midfield, use these guys as kind of our makeshift wingers, and try and utilise our pace a little bit better up front to basically take advantage of these guys being pretty slow. But that's kind of just me running you guys through what's kind of going through my head at the moment in time. And as always, it's always about finding that right balance. And talking about balancing things, Rog whips in the corner, and 25.5 million quid for Varjek could have just bought us the FA Cup. Weren't expecting us to score from a corner, but to be honest, with how woeful the last few weeks have been, I'll take any kind of goal at the moment. Varjek, our right back, great finish from him, went through so many of the Wolves players, and it looks like come the 65th minute, Piaka may very well have to come off. So we are actually going to make that slight change that I discussed earlier on, where we're going to... Andre Gray will play more as a deep line. In fact, Nyang will play... In fact, I have no idea what I'm doing. So Nyang's going to play more as a deep line forward. Andre's going to be really more as an advanced forward, try and utilise his pace. Piaka will, of course, be coming off, and the man he's going to be coming off for is, in fact, going to be Matthias Kunz. In terms of passing, in terms of vision, I do feel like he can play very well, there we go, as an advanced playmaker. And we're not actually going to tell these guys to become more attacking, because we've got the 1-0 lead now, and this guy's on attacking as well. But we should be pretty good. Romeu should drop down between the two centre-backs. These guys should provide a decent balanced amount of width. In fact, Romeu's going to come off for Douglas, just sin that he was on 70%. But other than that, we should be alright. If we're going to do anything differently, I'd probably lower the tempo a little bit. And as always, let's head back into the... In fact, no, we're going to go to control as well, to just try and hold on to the ball a little bit better. 70 minutes in, I'm not going to lie, I was expecting quite a few different players to score a goal in this final. And Varjek wasn't one of them, and Douglas came very, very close to scoring a free kick there. Wolves haven't even had a shot on target yet, even though the last time I think I said that. Yeah, Spurs beat us 1-0. So Rog is going to pick up the ball on the edge of the box, is going to shoot, and it's another very good save from Sells, who, if it weren't for him, Wolves would easily be, I think, at least 2 or 3 down. Douglas tried a very similar corner there towards Varjek, but the Wolves defence sniffed it out. Come on, guys, don't throw this away. Sam Vokes, ex-Burnley man, has been thrown onto the pitch. But, yeah, we're continuously applying the pressure. 85, 88, no point in changing anything. You see our number of shots zoom straight up. Let's be happy. We've, won a second cup. We won the FA Cup. It's argued to be the world's most prestigious cup competition. It's not exactly the Premier League, but this is the first time we win 2 bits of silverware in one season. So let's try and be a little bit positive. Let's look towards seriously, genuinely mounting a title challenge in the next series. Well done, guys. And hopefully they can go on their summer holidays now and just forget about what happened this season and focus more on next season. But I think looking at this match, it kind of sums up what the second half of our season kind of was like. Chances after chances after chance, and no end product really. It shouldn't really, after such a dominating game, after so many... I mean, some people might say that at times my formation is a little bit too narrow, but the thing is, we're creating opportunities, we're creating clear-cut chances, and if we go into our analysis bit, I don't normally do this, it's normally something I do in my own time. Now, yes, we've had quite a few shots from outside of the box here, but I think when you consider how technically gifted some of our players like Alenya are, and you consider how many shots we've actually had from the edge of the box and from inside of the box, for me, shots from this area here, even though they're outside of the box, should still be challenging the goalkeeper when you are hovering around potentially being Premier League champions, right? So, for me, it's a sign of us not being able to take our chances. It's maybe just that extra bit of cutting edge that we've been lacking because we didn't have any money in January. So we are going to lift the FA Cup. Carlos Alenya, thankfully, isn't too injured. We celebrate a double. We won the FA Cup. We won the UEFA Super Cup, but it wasn't quite as good as Jose Mourinho's Man United's treble, so we are still behind them in terms of how we're doing in the UK. I've received a nice cheeky bonus. I'll buy myself a new car with that. We've only won 1.91 million quid for winning the FA Cup final. The board are happy though, which is good, even though I wouldn't mind a sugar daddy right now coming in. Other than that, I think that rounds up our season. That certainly doesn't round up our season. The game's glitched out again. That rounds up our season. Again, you look at this second half of the bloody season, we still didn't really do that badly, did we? There's still quite a lot of green and yellow there. But Man United under Mourinho have just been, they really have just been something else on this save. And I think a lot of people with their own saves will know how overpowered they seem to become, simply because no one can really compete with them financially. So, looking towards the future, looking towards next season, we have £54 million to spend. We have Darko Doric making his way to the club. Now, I don't think this lad's ever going to be good enough for the first team, but we've potentially signed him for 300k. And he seems to have the right attributes in the right areas. He's pretty fast for a centre-back. He's got decent marking. Get that tackling and heading maybe up to 12, 13. We'll be able to sell him on for a little bit of profit, and he'll be a decent backup player as well. Depending how good or how poor his crossing is, he could be able to double up as a backup fullback too. We've won the FA Cup. We've got a cheeky pre-season tour coming up in Turkey, where we'll hopefully bump into Tugay. And yeah, it's just annoying, isn't it? We lost and conceded less goals than Man United did, but we drew too many. And yeah, it's been a productive season. We're going to have one more season. Can we win the Premier League in our next season? Let me know what positions you think we need to strengthen. Piak has been on fire with 16 assists, but we're going to look at all this in the next episode. So stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and thanks for watching.